Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into one of the most fascinating, heartbreaking, and ultimately triumphant stories in all of modern medicine. We're talking about spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA. We're going to map out exactly what this disease is, break down the literal miracles of science researchers have developed to fight it, and then we have to confront the shocking economics behind these treatments. It's a story of human biology pushed to its absolute limits and the incredible cost of a cure. So let's get into it. Okay, let's dive into this. Globally, about 1 in every 10,000 live births is affected by spinal muscular atrophy. Now, on a macro scale, sure, that classifies it as a rare disease. But think about how many babies are born around the world every single day. That 1 in 10,000, it suddenly represents a massive, ongoing human challenge. It means thousands of families every single year are getting a diagnosis that completely turns their lives upside down forever. And look, we really need to be clear about the stakes right from the jump. Spinal muscular atrophy is the #1 genetic cause of infant death, period. For a long, long time, getting an SMA diagnosis, especially the most severe forms of it, was an absolute tragedy. There was virtually no hope for survival beyond a couple of years. It's a devastating reality. But to really understand why it's so overwhelmingly lethal, we need to look at what this disease actually does to the human body. Which brings us to our core definition. Spinal muscular atrophy is a genetic, progressive, and sadly often terminal rare disease. Essentially, it systematically strips away a person's fundamental physical abilities by attacking motor neurons. Those are the vital nerve cells in the spinal cord that actually control your muscle movement. As those cells degrade, the muscles just waste away. Now, because this disease is progressive, patient management is incredibly complex. We're not just treating a single symptom here. Managing severe SMA takes a massive multidisciplinary effort. It requires constant, proactive intervention. We're talking specialized respiratory therapy, using BiPAP machines to actually help struggling lungs clear fluids so the patient can breathe. It involves the surgical insertion of feeding tubes just to ensure essential nutrition. And it requires intensive daily physical therapy to preserve whatever joint mobility is left. For decades, management wasn't about curing the disease at all. It was simply about coordinating this extreme, round-the-clock supportive care, just trying to keep these vulnerable kids alive as their muscles failed. To really ground these medical facts in reality, consider a recent news report about a 5-month-old named Tira Kamat, who has been battling for her life in a Mumbai hospital. Baby Tira is just one face of that 1 in 10,000 statistic we talked about earlier. She was diagnosed with SMA type 1. Her motor neurons were failing. Without massive, immediate intervention, her muscles would just keep weakening until her little lungs literally couldn't take in air anymore. It's a terrifying, deeply human situation. Families like Tira's are thrust into this nightmare, frantically searching for any possible lifeline. Section 1. Zooming in, the genetic root of SMA. So to understand exactly what goes wrong here and how we can possibly throw a lifeline to kids like Tira, we've got to zoom way in. Let's look at the body's manufacturing process right down at the microscopic cellular level. First, a genetic mutation occurs in the DNA. Normally, our DNA sends out instructions via RNA to build proteins, but in SMA, step 2 goes wrong. We get errors in a process called RNA splicing. You can think of RNA splicing exactly like film editing. You have to cut and paste the genetic code together perfectly for the movie to make sense. But because of this mutation, an error happens during that cut and paste process, and that leads us to step 3. Exon skipping. A crucial piece of the genetic code, called an exon, is accidentally left on the cutting room floor. Because that specific piece is skipped, the body fails to produce a critical protein that those motor neurons absolutely need to survive. And without that protein, the neurons die and the muscles atrophy. Section 2. The breakthroughs, managing the unmanageable. Now, like I mentioned earlier, for decades, managing SMA was strictly about reactive, supportive care. You couldn't just go in and fix a broken genetic editing process inside a living human being, right? Well, actually, scratch that. That's exactly what science has figured out how to do. We are now in a totally new era of medical management that has literally changed SMA from a hopeless, fatal diagnosis into a highly treatable condition. We've got groundbreaking pharmaceutical solutions that actually fight the disease right at the root level. First up, we have nusinersen, which you might know commercially as Spinraza. This was huge. It was the very first FDA-approved treatment for SMA. And right next to it, Zolgensma, which is a commercially available gene therapy. Let's be clear, These aren't just drugs that mask symptoms or offer a little pain relief. No, these are highly advanced therapies designed to step in and fix that biological failure we just broke down. They've completely shifted the entire patient management paradigm from reactive, supportive care to proactive disease modification. So, the really incredible takeaway here is that science has remarkably given us multiple distinct pathways to manage this disease. But it's important to understand how they differ. Spinraza works by targeting that exact RNA splicing error. It acts kind of like a biological patch, helping the cells properly cut and paste the RNA so that missing exon isn't skipped anymore. The body can finally produce the protein it needs. The catch? Managing a patient on Spinraza requires ongoing, lifelong doses injected directly into the spinal fluid. Zolgensma, on the other hand, approaches the management paradigm from a completely different angle. It's a one-time intravenous gene therapy. It literally delivers a brand new, working copy of the missing gene straight into the patient's cells. Both of these treatments are absolutely brilliant, both are saving lives, and both have completely revolutionized how we handle the #1 genetic cause of infant death. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we pivot. Section 3, the complication, the price of a miracle. We have to move from the brilliant science and the saved lives straight into the harsh macroeconomic reality of modern healthcare. 16 crore rupees. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the estimated cost of the single life-saving injection of gene therapy required to save 5-month-old baby Tira Kamat in Mumbai. It's an absolutely astronomical figure, and it creates this massive, seemingly impassable wall between a dying child and the medicine sitting right there in a vial that can save her. Which begs the question, why? Why does a life-saving scientific miracle carry such an astronomical price tag? We're looking at an incredibly stark contrast here. On one side, you have the sheer brilliance of human ingenuity. I mean, our ability to literally decode DNA, understand the nuances of RNA splicing, and engineer therapies that fix genetic typos to save infants from paralysis, it's mind-blowing. But on the other side, we have the incredibly frustrating barrier of extreme financial cost. The research and development required to create these complex gene therapies takes years and billions of dollars. And because it targets a rare disease affecting 1 in 10,000, pharmaceutical companies price the treatments exceptionally high just to recoup their massive investments and fund future innovations. But, for the parents sitting in a hospital room holding a sick baby, those macroeconomic justifications, they don't make the price tag any less devastating. And that brings us to a final thought for today's explainer. Think about the incredible journey we just took. We went from the devastating physical reality of spinal muscular atrophy down to the microscopic errors in RNA splicing, up through the miraculous breakthroughs of treatments like Spinraza and Zolgensma, and finally, right into the staggering economic wall that patients face. As we continue to unlock the deepest secrets of our DNA and invent even more incredible cures, this is really the definitive question of our era. How do we bridge the gap between a miraculous medical breakthrough and the staggering cost of access? It's a tension we absolutely must resolve. The science is ready, but our healthcare economics are struggling to keep up. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope this leaves you with a lot to think about when it comes to the future of medicine.